Bill, congratulations on the new book.
Thank you very much. Please show that again as many times as you wish. Right.
I'll just keep it up here instead of my face. But it's a great read, not surprisingly, and you weave basically personal history, memoir, with some really profound insights about what you've learned over the course of your career and applying them forward with strategic suggestions in I think it's fair to say three main areas: China, media, and technology. I want to just tell folks we're going to talk for around an hour, but you guys are going to come in for conversation, around halfway mark. So we want, if you have questions, please put them in the chat. And this is really a conversation among colleagues about the lessons learned as they apply forward by a dear, valued OPC member and former chair, Bill. So, Bill, as I said, the book is really strategic insights and advice framed within a memoir. And you came into the business in kind of the golden age of journalism, at least as it applies to foreign, spending and being able to travel on organizations' dimes. And you found yourself in the middle of one of probably the great story of our time at its earliest stages, when you were brought in to cover Beijing, when it was a very different country than it is today. Tell us how that happened and what you saw then, just for folks to understand.
Well, I was a 27-year-old on the UPI foreign desk in New York, and I was trying to get a transfer anywhere in the world. So I would have gone anywhere. So Jimmy Carter and Deng Xiaoping normalized relations, so UPI realized they needed to reinforce the region. So they sent in the senior people into Peking, it was called at the time, not Beijing, it was Peking. And so I was sent to Hong Kong as a junior kind of person to support general operations. But one piece of my job was to cover southern China. And so I went in to cover the Canton Trade Fair. At that time, Guangzhou was called Canton. So here I was, 27 years of age, I knew nothing about China, so to speak, any Chinese. But the big question in everybody's minds around the world was, can the Chinese modernize economically? Can they break free from the Cultural Revolution, which had devastated them for years, right? As many as 10 million people may have died in ideological struggle. So they were now, Deng Xiaoping was now proclaiming to get rich is glorious. We're all going to turn the corner and engage in economic modernization. So my senior colleagues in Beijing couldn't see any of it. It was all concentrated in southern China, Guangzhou, Shenzhen, the special economic zone. So I would go into Guangzhou and Canton and walk around the streets and say, it looks to me like these people are interested in the things I'm wearing. I had a watch, a camera, I had a beard at the time, like I do now. So crowds would gather to look at me and look at my clothes and my cameras and pens and notebooks and things I had, shoes. They wanted those things, right? They didn't want class struggle. So I wrote that the average man in the street of Canton is more interested in acquiring the material things that the West owns than in class struggle. And for that deep insight, I won an Overseas Press Club Award for best economic reporting from abroad. And so this is what launched me. This is why I've been so dedicated to the OPC for so many years.
Well, and I think to mutual benefit. You mentioned the Cultural Revolution, which you were in the wake of, and it's so fascinating because it was such enormous dislocation and, as you say, mass death in the name of ideology. Sketch out for folks what it was like to be there in the wake of that, and then how the Chinese assimilated the memory of that into a new material aims, which they have continued to this day.
Well, Deng Xiaoping was remarkably transformative as a leader. One of the stories that I recall that I never wrote about for UPI was they wanted to build a port in Zhuhai in Guangzhou province. And so there was a mountain in the way. The southern coast of China is very rough, very rugged. So I went there to see, oh, you're going to build a port here and there's a mountain in the way, right? Sure. Well, they had guys up in the top of the mountain with pickaxes and shovels, and then a pattern of people going down the hill in a circuitous path with wheelbarrows. they were going to take down this mountain, let's say it was 2,000 feet high, with pickaxes and shovels. They had the manpower and the labor to do that. And they had a sense that we, the Chinese people, have time. You know, Mao said the Chinese people can wait 10,000 years. It wasn't going to take 10,000 years to take down this mountain, but the Chinese realized that when they focus their enormous human resources on an objective, on a common objective, they can achieve things that the outside world can never expect or understand. And that, in fact, is what they've done over the intervening 40 years. They have focused their human resources on creating a modern, technologically very sophisticated state that is engaged in a worldwide campaign to establish themselves as the center of a new Chinese empire. And so I saw the very early stages of that. And then different stages of my career. I was Beijing bureau chief in 81, 82. Then I write about, in the book, I write about the middle years, going back as far as late as 2008, made dozens of trips. So over the arc of 40 years, you can see how the basic patterns that you could just begin to see played out. And so, of course, we all were terribly confused, but we didn't know what we, the West, were doing in opening China up. We really didn't know. We assumed that they would want to be like us, right? Doesn't everybody want to be like us? Don't they want to have the things that we have? Don't they want, and all the early evidence was, yes, they want economic modernization. They want political liberalization. They want to break away from the tyranny of the Cultural Revolution. All the early indications, I'd say for decades, were that this was a great success story, not only for China, but for the world.